4 years, an amazing celebration happens in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
Millions of people around the world view it. Many see it in person. What are they all watching?
This.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
The recently elected President of the United States, pledging to uphold and defend the laws of the land for the next 4 years.
We call this day-long event the Presidential Inauguration. And today, we're going to answer lots of questions you might have about it.
Hi, I'm Jill Biden, and my husband Joe was elected the 46th President of the United States. Inaugurations are very special events for our country, and I'm so excited that you're going to learn more about them today.
Welcome to I Do Solemnly Swear, a Discovery Education special that answers your questions about the U.S. inauguration.
There are usually 2 types of inaugurations: a new president taking power, or an already elected president beginning a second 4-year term. The start of a president's first term is a really big deal, but either way, lots of people want to be there to see any inauguration.
And lots of people are part of the special ceremony. To get ready, construction teams need 3 whole months to set up the platforms and bleachers outside the U.S. Capitol.
Who all takes part in inaugurations?
The next president of the United States, of course.
Well, yeah, but who else?
Traditionally, with the newly elected president, members of both the past administration, that's the president and his or her team, and future administration attend the ceremony. It symbolizes the transition of power from one leader to the next.
The families of the outgoing and incoming presidents and vice presidents are there too. And don't forget the hundreds of thousands of Americans who usually travel to Washington, D.C., where the inauguration happens, to see this once in every 4 years event.
Hi, my name's Olivia and I'm in the 6th grade. I would like to know what it's like to be at an inauguration.
I'm proud to say that I have been at 5 presidential inaugurations. These events are always historic and very exciting.
Well, being an inaugural is, I think, one of the great moments in our country and our history in your life if you get a chance to be there. Or frankly, even if you're just watching it on television, what you're watching is what people all over the world are looking at and seeing a democracy that's done this same thing every 4 years since 1789. You know, I've been to at least half a dozen inaugurals, and for most of them, I've had a pretty good seat on the platform. The Supreme Court members will almost always all be there. Every member of Congress is usually close to being in attendance. Everybody that can be there is there. And of course, people from the executive branch, most importantly, the person who's being sworn in as president, the person who's being sworn in as vice president.
The inauguration is also historic because Kamala Harris will become the first African American, the first Asian American, and the first woman vice president. And she is truly showing a generation of little girls and boys that anything and everything is possible.
Most people do not get the tickets to sit up with the president. Most people can just go to the inauguration and stand on the National Mall or along the streets where the parade is going to be. Any American can go to the inaugural, and I would really encourage you to go to the inaugural someday when you're older because it's really fun.
If you were asked to throw a big party for a new president, what would you use to decorate for it?
I'd put lots of American flags.
Oh yeah, definitely lots of flags. The colors red, white, and blue should be all over the place too.
Yep, and a great big seal.
Wait, a seal?
No, not that kind of seal. This kind. The seal of the President of the United States. It's a special symbol that lets you know that some really important presidential stuff is going on.
On Inauguration Day, you'll be able to spot these and many other symbols of our government throughout the day of ceremonies, parades, and parties to help welcome the new president.
One of the biggest symbols of all is this, the U.S. Capitol. It's the building where the U.S. Congress meets to do its business. They make the laws the president has to enforce, and they decide how much money the president can spend.
Most recent presidential inaugurations have taken place outside the Capitol on a big balcony called the West Front, which has a view of the whole crowd of people watching, and the Washington and Lincoln memorials in the distance.
Hi, my name is Carly, and I'm in 2nd grade. Why is the inauguration held at the Capitol? Why isn't it held at the White House, where the president is going to live?
Having the inauguration at the Capitol brings together the 3 branches of government. You have Congress, which meets in the Capitol, the president, which is the executive branch, taking the oath of office, and the oath is administered by the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, the judicial branch. And so all 3 branches of government are represented.
While the president has the single most powerful job in government, according to the Constitution, the U.S. Congress as a whole is the most important and powerful part of the federal government. It makes the laws that tell the president what to do. So, it's appropriate that the president goes to Congress to be sworn in.
After the inauguration ceremony is over, there's usually a parade from the Capitol to the White House, and then the president ends up at the White House in a reviewing stand, which is sort of like bleachers you would see at a football game or something, and he watches the parade as it goes by. And then when the parade is over, the president and the First Lady go into the White House and start their life as president and First Lady. So that's why it starts at the Capitol to show that the people and their representatives elected the president, and then the party sort of moves to the White House to show that the president is now in his place and going to be in charge from the White House. So that's why it goes from one place to the other, to signify the start of the president's new job.
Have you ever heard the saying, "It happens like clockwork"?
I think it's when something happens over and over again, at the same time in the same way, like the ticking of a clock. Oh, or like Old Faithful. That's the geyser in Yellowstone National Park that erupts every 90 minutes.
That I will faithfully execute.
Yeah, presidential inaugurations are a lot like Old Faithful. But instead of happening every 90 minutes, they take place every 2,102,400 minutes.
Whoa, that's a lot of minutes.
I know, right? That's because the inauguration happens once in every 4 years on the same day, like clockwork, January 20th. It's spelled out right here in the 20th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution as the day when the U.S. should inaugurate its presidents. The Constitution is the agreement we made as a nation on how to rule ourselves. It was started over 200 years ago and has been changed or amended 27 times. Way back in 1804 and until 1933, the U.S. Constitution stated that presidents should be inaugurated on March 4th. That's almost 4 months after the presidential election.
Hi, my name is Camden. I'm in 3rd grade. Why do we have to wait so long after Election Day to inaugurate the president?
So one of the important things to remember about our transitions and why it does take time between Election Day in November to Inauguration Day in January, there is a lot of information that has to be transferred from one president and one administration to the next. And remember too, a president has about 4,000 people in the government that work for him, people that are appointed by him. And of course, in this case, with Vice President Harris, we'll have the first female vice president. They'll work together as a team to make the decisions and appointments of the people that they want to work in their administration.
From morning to night, inauguration days are usually filled with ceremonies, parades, and fancy parties.
But did you know the most important moment of this entire day lasts just 60 seconds or less?
It's when the president raises his or her right hand and takes something called the oath of office.
I, George Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
An oath is like a promise you make, and the president's oath is just 35 words long. Believe it or not, that's just 4 words longer than the Pledge of Allegiance many of us say in our classrooms at the beginning of school.
The U.S. Constitution not only tells presidents the exact words to use when taking the oath of office, it also requires they say them before they can begin serving in office.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
George Washington was the first president to say the oath. He also started the tradition of saying it with the hand placed on a Bible.
Let's hear the next question.
Hi, my name's Penelope, and I'm in the 2nd grade. I'd like to know why the president has to take an oath of office.
So the oath of office that a president takes is very short, but there are a few words in there that really are the most important thing for a new president to say, and that is to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's what makes us a nation. That's what makes us a republic.
If the president does not take the oath of office word for word, then he or she cannot become president of the United States. When President Barack Obama took the oath of office, there was a little bit of a mistake. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, actually switched 2 words in the oath of office.
Execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
That I will execute
faithfully the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States faithfully.
So President Obama repeated the words back to Justice Roberts, but they were incorrect. The next day, Justice Roberts and President Obama took the oath again in private to make sure that no one would question that President Obama hadn't correctly taken the oath of office.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. Thank you so much.
I think people take an oath like the pledging of allegiance to the flag. That's very routine. We don't really think about it maybe as we should every time. Another oath is when you're elected to office and you raise your hand and promise to do things in the most solemn way. The president takes an oath like that. Every member of Congress takes that oath as the new Congress is sworn in. It's a moment of real importance. Your actions are going to be bound by what you have just promised to do.
When the president-elect raises his, and hopefully someday her, right hand and takes the oath of office, that single moment represents the voices of the American people.
Do you know what the POTUS is? How about the Hill? Or the inaugural address?
People use a lot of funny words and nicknames to talk about the inauguration, but there are reasons for that. Inaugurations have been happening since George Washington became our first president, over 200 years ago. So, Americans have had a long time to come up with words to describe this event.
There's also a lot happening on the day of the ceremony, so people need words that can help them talk to each other quickly.
It's like the inauguration has its own language.
Hi, my name is Ian, and I'm in the 2nd grade. What are some of the most important words used during the inauguration? What are some of the coolest ones?
That is a really good question. One of the words that you're going to hear the most is inauguration. An inauguration means the beginning of something new.
Our founding fathers actually thought this was really important because we have presidents that we elect and not kings that are crowned. And so an inauguration is different from a coronation where you crown a king or queen. Another word we use is the inaugural address. Now, in this case, an address is not like the place that you live. It is what we call the speech that the president makes for the first time when they get elected.
When President John Kennedy gave his inaugural address, it had a very famous line in it.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Well, you wouldn't say to your parents, ask not if I made my bed this morning. So that's the kind of formal language that you see in an inaugural address, and that's what makes it fun to watch.
So some of the words that you hear on Inauguration Day sound a little funny because they're actually short versions of longer words that people say just to refer to things quickly. So for example, POTUS stands for President of the United States. And when we say the Hill, we're talking about Capitol Hill, which is where the Capitol building, where our senators and representatives meet, is in.
What you'll see at the ceremony is the POTUS will be standing there being sworn in. His wife, the First Lady FLOTUS, she will be standing next to him. And the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, will be the one giving him the oath of office. So you'll see POTUS, FLOTUS, and SCOTUS all on the stage at the inauguration.
So you asked what the coolest words were. You might know that the Secret Service are the people who help protect the really important people in our government, like the president and his family. And you might not know that all of the people who they protect, including the president, they get code names. President Obama was Renegade, Michelle Obama was Renaissance, and their daughters, Sasha and Malia, were Radiance and Rosebud. You can pick any name you want, actually. There was even somebody in Congress who chose T-Rex as their code name.
So think about, if you were president of the United States, what would your Secret Service code name be? And what would the rest of your family pick? I think it's a really fun idea.
So far, we've learned a lot about what happens at the U.S. Capitol on Inauguration Day. At the same time that's happening, just 2 miles down the road, something else is going on that's just as incredible and requires just as much time and planning. The new First Family, that's what the president and his or her family is called, is getting moved into the White House.
By law, new presidents are not allowed to move into the White House until they're officially president. So at exactly noon on January 20th, and not a second before, the big move begins.
You may be wondering how this move happens. A group of almost 100 White House workers are divided into 2 teams. One group starts by moving all of the outgoing president's family stuff out of the house, and the other moves the incoming president's family stuff in. They even clean the whole house in between. And can you believe they only have 6 hours to do all of this?
And we're not talking about any old house here. The White House is huge. It has 6 floors and 132 rooms. Not all of the space is for the First Family, of course. The part of the house where they live, called the private residence, is on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the building.
The staff isn't just moving stuff in. They're also unpacking and putting it all away. Clothes into drawers, artwork onto walls, and favorite foods into the kitchen. They even make sure their pets are happy and comfortable.
It's important for the White House to feel like home to the First Family from the second they step through the door. Which brings us to our next question.
Hi, my name is Jackson. What is it like to move into the White House?
That's a great question. There's only about 4 or 5 hours on Inauguration Day to move the outgoing president out of the White House and move the new president and First Family into the White House.
Some of the presidents, of course, in our country have come to the White House with young families, or they have grandchildren who spend a lot of time at the White House. When Sasha and Malia Obama came to see the White House, Jenna and Barbara Bush, who are President Bush's daughters, showed them all around the White House and where they would be living.
Most First Families, when they arrive at the White House, bring pets with them. The Bidens will be bringing 2 dogs to the White House, Champ and Major, who are both German Shepherds. Champ knows the ropes of the White House from the time when President Biden was Vice President of the United States. But Major has a particularly big role to fill. He is the first shelter dog to ever live in the White House.
Let's review some of the things we've learned so far about U.S. presidential inaugurations.
It's a special ceremony that takes place every 4 years, usually on January 20th.
It happens at the U.S. Capitol, where lots of people gather to watch it.
It usually involves a new president, as well as the president who's leaving office. But it could also be a second inauguration for a president who gets re-elected to a second 4-year term.
And while there are parades and lots of other celebrations throughout the day, the most important moment is this one, when the president takes the oath of office.
The Constitution of the United States. So help you God, so help me God.
Hey, it looks like we have just one more question that needs to be answered. Let's hear it.
Hi, my name is Elliot, and I am in 3rd grade. My question is, why do we have to have inaugurations anyway? Why can't the president just start working?
What a great question. For this one, let's tackle it ourselves.
Okay, I think we get it now. We hold inaugurations for the president to pledge in front of all the world, to do his or her job to uphold and defend the laws of the land.
Presidential elections are almost always long, hard contests, and it's never easy for someone to lose at the end.
So after the election of a new president, when one administration hands power to the next, it's a signal to all Americans and a symbol to people all around the world that what matters most here, more than any one person or political party, is that we keep the United States of America united.
On behalf of Discovery Education, thank you to all the students who provided questions, and to all of the people who answered them.